It is time for the IMA report. It is Sunday night, July 19th. I hope everybody's had a good weekend. This this week, it's time to preview the Big Ten and preview the AFC South. NCAA has starting to indicate they might do what I'm suggesting to do. They might delay college football to spring 2021. Junior college, they've announced they are going to move their season to the spring. The Colonial has decided they're going to move their college football season, has canceled their college football season thus far. In the NFL, players may start holding out unless they can agree to a COVID testing policy. There is, I think, maybe a good chance we could see a little bit of a delay into the NFL season if the NFL can't get their act together on COVID testing policies and procedures. That would be a bummer. Hopefully they get that issue resolved soon, as people like Russell Wilson and Drew Brees are getting very concerned. And I don't say I blame them. As much as I hate Seattle, I don't want to see Russell Wilson get COVID. As much as I don't like Tom Brady, I don't wish COVID on him. I don't think people would want to watch NFL if players are having to worry about COVID. NFL needs to get their COVID policies going. Right now, if a player does test positive for COVID-19, they would be at least out 3 weeks in the NFL. But the NFLPA and the NFL are a bit away on an agreement on testing for COVID. Training camps are supposed to start opening very soon, but I don't think players will participate in training camps without some sort of deal on COVID testing. So that's how I feel. Other divisions are starting to announce they are going to go division only, Pac-12. I think SEC could be heading that way. But right now, I don't think we're going to have college football season this fall. I think it's more likely going to happen in the spring. But if we do have one in the fall, this is a conference that will be doing conference only, the Big Ten. Here, I'm going to start off with the Eastern Division. In 7th place, I've got Rutgers. I think that Rutgers may be lucky to win 1 or 2 games this year, but they did make the right choice in bringing back Greg Schiano. Greg Schiano is not going to be expected to bring them to a championship, but he's the right guy to bring Rutgers back into respectability. Rutgers is probably one of the worst Power 5 football programs in the NCAA right now. So hiring Schiano was a really good move, and I think, as I said, I think they only win 1 or 2 games this year, but it's going to be a long rebuild at Rutgers and getting back to a culture that gets Rutgers back into bowl games. In 6th place, Maryland. Question's going to be Josh Jackson. Are we going to get the good Josh Jackson or the bad Josh Jackson? Defense has been terrible for Maryland. And honestly, I don't think Mike Locksley's that great of a coach. I think Maryland's going to be stuck in mediocrity as long as Mike Locksley is coaching the Maryland Terps. So Maryland is going to be in 6th place. In fifth place, Michigan State. Mel Tucker is kind of going through a rebuild at Michigan State after Mark D'Antonio retired. And Michigan State's in a lot of trouble as it is already. Their recruiting's kind of taken a hit over the scandals, and they got to rebuild the reputation. So I kind of think this is a Baylor situation for Mel Tucker. I think the expectations are going to be low for Michigan State. Getting to a bowl is another question, but I don't think winning's going to be big right now. I think it's more about rebuilding reputation and getting Michigan State's reputation back is what needs to happen this year at East Lansing. and improve the image of the school so they can get better recruits back at Michigan State. So I think they'll be in 5th place. We'll probably win 3 or 4 games this year. So that's where I've got Michigan State. In 4th place, Indiana. I don't think there'll be another 8-win team this year, but I do think 6-6 or 7-5 is where I've got Indiana this year. And you've got Michael Penix Jr., who is very healthy. I mean, who is a good quarterback when healthy, but he did get hurt. He's been getting hurt the last couple of years. If he can stay healthy, maybe Indiana can continue to shock people. But Tom Allen's got a good squad here. I think Tom Allen's got something going on at Indiana. And a small step back to 7-5 and 6-6 is a possibility. But Indiana's a basketball school. I don't think they'll have any issue with a small step back. Indiana, expectations are always not that big on football at Indiana, so I've got them there. Michigan. And what can I say for Michigan? Jim Harbaugh is a good coach. He just can't seem to get over the hump. Part of it is not his fault. I don't think he's been able to recruit quarterbacks as good as he thought he would. Shea Patterson's gone this year, so they are going to be going with either Joe Milton or Dylan McCaffrey at quarterback this year. They do have good running backs, but I don't know. What that's been the problem with Michigan is they just can't get over that hump with Ohio State, and I see that trend continuing this year. And Jim Harbaugh can't win the big game. And I don't think it's necessarily Jim Harbaugh's fault either. Ohio State has the better recruiting. Michigan does not. Ohio State has the better quarterbacks. Michigan does not. But at some point, Michigan's got to look at themselves and saying, what can we do to start recruiting better? And that's got to be something Michigan has to start looking at, is recruiting the talent to get over a Michigan, get over the Notre Dames, get over the big boys in college. And I don't think it's going to be any different this year. Michigan will probably be a 9-win team, 10-win team. They'll win the games they're supposed to win, but they just can't get over that hump. And at some point, I feel like maybe Jim Harbaugh has plateaued there. At some point, Jim Harbaugh may head back to the NFL. And I don't think it's Jim Harbaugh's fault, but at some point, what do you say is maybe a change of scenery the best? And since Lloyd Carr, it's just not been a good it's just not been a good cycle for Michigan, and I don't expect it to get any better anytime soon for Michigan. In second place at Happy Valley, the Penn State Nittany Lions. James Franklin continues to run a good program at Penn State. They did lose Trace McSorley, but this year they've got Sean Clifford. We'll see how much better the offense is under Shea Clifford. I think Penn State could be a sleeper to win the division. We'll see. Penn State could, it wouldn't be a total shock if James Franklin's Penn State Nittany Lions end up winning the Big Ten. But, of course, Ohio State is Ohio State. I'll get to them in a moment. But I don't see any reason why, at worst, James Franklin could be smelling the roses this year, whether it is in January or Memorial Day weekend. And of course, in first place, the big, bad Ohio State Buckeyes. Justin Fields is back. So I think as long as Justin Fields is healthy and is playing quarterback, Ohio State's going to be up and running. And of course, Ohio State's the cream of the crop. So Jason Day has one more year with Urban Meyer's recruits before we really start seeing Jason Day's recruiting cycle. So this, I think, should be. So next year, I think, is going to be the year we'll find out how good of a recruiter Jason Day is. But I think Ohio State's going to have no problem being back in the college football playoff in 2021. In the western part of the Big Ten, I think in seventh place, I'm going to go with Northwestern. Northwestern's coming off a 3-9 season. The problem is the rest of that division is very tough. I don't think it's going to get that much better for Pat Fitzgerald. But the question is going to be, is Pat Fitzgerald going to be on the hot seat this year? Time will tell. Northwestern is not necessarily a football school, so I think he can weather another losing season. In sixth place, Illinois. Illinois finally got bowl eligible under Lovie Smith last year. So expectations are to get back to a bowl game at Illinois. I think they will. Maybe. I think they can. I think they'll be around 5-7, 6-6. They could be sixth place too. So I kind of think they'll be around 6-6. Fifth place, Purdue. Purdue coming up with a lot of injuries last year. But they do get Rondale Moore back, Elijah Sindelar. And now they get Jack Plummer and Austin Burton competing for quarterback. And you've got Aiden O'Connell. So there's definitely a quarterback competition. Jeff Brom's seat's starting to get a bit warm at Purdue as he's kind of been, I think he's missed the bowl, barely got into bowl eligibility the last couple of years, or has missed the bowl. I think 6 or 7 wins is what Jeff Brom needs to start getting that team on track. It's not an easy place to coach, but I think Brom's seats start to get a little warm at Purdue, and they need to start winning. At fourth place, another school that needs to probably get to 6-6 or 7-5. Nebraska. Nebraska barely missed a bowl last year at 5-7. Now there's expectations for Scott Frost to get to a bowl game this year at Nebraska. You do get back Adrian Martinez from former Clovis West High, Adrian Martinez. He'll be back at full strength. You got Wandale Robinson. But they need better receiving core. But if the defense can have a little bit of improvement too, I can't see why Nebraska can start rattling off a few more wins and get to 6 wins or 7 wins. I do think we will see Nebraska in the bowl game this year, which will keep Scott Frost safe for another year. If Nebraska fails to get to a bowl game this year, you will see Scott Frost on the hot seat in 2021. There's no excuse not to get to a bowl game in Nebraska this year. Third place, Minnesota. I do think there will be a bit of a drop-off with losing players to the NFL stuff, especially with Antoine Winfield Jr. gone, and we shall see how Tanner Morgan does. If Tanner Morgan's good, and PJ Fleck has really gotten Minnesota to be a good football program in the Big Ten. Minnesota's not an easy place to recruit or coach. I do think the Golden Gophers will probably take a small step back this year. We shall see. I think Minnesota will win 8 or 9 games, finish third, get to a good bowl game. In second place, the Iowa Hawkeyes. We shall see how Spencer Petras does in his first year. And he does have a strong cast with Tyler Goodson, Coy Cronk. And then you got the defense and Lark Jackson and stuff. I think Kirk Ferentz is a very underrated coach at Iowa. I can't see why Iowa is not going to be contending for a division title this year. And then in first place, it's the Wisconsin Badgers. Some way, somehow, Wisconsin is always near the top of the division every year in the Big Ten West. So I never underestimate the Wisconsin Badgers. I think it's Wisconsin's division to lose. And I think we will see a Wisconsin-Ohio State showdown yet again in the Big Ten title game. With, of course, Ohio State getting back to the playoff and either Penn State or Wisconsin smelling the roses. That is my preview for 2020 in college football. Now on to the NFL's AFC South preview. Fourth place, Jacksonville. Jacksonville has pretty much decided they're tanking for Trevor Lawrence this year. I don't think Gardner Minshew is not a franchise quarterback. So they are definitely tanking for Trevor Lawrence. Jacksonville might be around 2-14, 1-15 this year. They're not going to be good. And of course, by the end of the year, Doug Marrone will be out of a job, and Shad Khan will look to start over. In third place, the Indianapolis Colts. Frank Reich has his work cut out for him at quarterback this year. They signed Phillip Rivers. I don't think Phillip Rivers is that much of an upgrade. From Jacoby Brissett. Phillip Rivers really regressed last year in LA, and that is a reason why Rivers did not go back to the LA Chargers this year. I think his regression will continue in Indianapolis, and at some point he will get benched by either Jacoby Brissett or the rookie Jacob Eason. If they're smart, Eason does not see the field this year. I think I would go with Rivers and Brissett as your two quarterbacks. Easton plays third string for a year and red shirts. But we shall see if Rivers can find any chemistry with T.Y. Hilton or not. Indianapolis's defense is good, but I have serious doubts that Phillip Rivers is going to get the Colts to a playoffs. And at some point, he's going to get benched by Jacoby Brissett. So I've got Indianapolis in third place. In second place, the Houston Texans. yes, they did win a playoff game this year, but I feel like I just don't. I just feel like Deshaun Watson is getting his prime years wasted by Bill O'Brien. I think they need to get better talent around. The defense is not that good in Houston. And I don't think Bill O'Brien's that good of a coach, to be honest. I kind of think they're going to end up in second place and underachieve this year. That's where I've got the Houston Texans. And your AFC South winners for 2020, the Tennessee Titans. I think the Titans are a really good squad. They are really well coached by Mike Vrabel. And they bring back Ryan Tannehill, who revived his career in Tennessee. And it does not hurt to have one of the best running backs in the NFL for Tennessee in Eric Henry, one of the top running backs in the NFL. So Henry makes life easy for Tannehill. And of course, the Titans have a great defense, great coaching. I can't see why not. I think the Titans are going to win the South. And I think a lot of people are still underestimating the Titans. And I don't think they are a fluke. I don't. Until Houston finds an upgrade over Bill O'Brien, it is the Titans' division to lose. That's how I feel about this week. This week, we shall see if there's a delay in the NFL season. Everybody have a good week. Wash your hands. Stay 6 feet apart. Wear the mask. Stay awesome. Good night.